All right, let's talk about one of Australia's most specific family visas, the Subclass 115, also known as the Remaining Relative Visa. Now, this one is designed for a really particular family situation, so we're going to break down exactly who it's for and what you need to do to qualify. So let's just start with the most important question right off the bat, because it really gets to the core of this visa. Are your only close relatives living in Australia? And I mean all of them. The answer to this single question is pretty much the key that unlocks this entire process. The goal here is a really powerful one, bringing families back together. But the journey to get there has some very, very strict rules. Why? Because this visa is really meant as a last resort for people who have no other close family ties anywhere else on the planet. So let's walk through what those requirements are one by one. And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the single biggest test for this visa. The government calls it the near relative rule, but honestly, you could call it the make or break rule. Your entire application really does hinge on this one condition. Look, the government's own guidelines are crystal clear on this. We've put the exact wording up here because there's just no wiggle room. It says if you or your partner have a near relative living outside of Australia, you will not get this visa. It's a hard and fast rule, and it's the very first filter they use. Okay, so let's break this down. This rule actually has two critical parts. First, like we just saw, you can't have any near relatives living anywhere but Australia. But the second part is just as important. Your relatives who are in Australia have to be properly settled. We're talking Australian citizens, permanent residents, or eligible New Zealand citizens. They can't just be here on a temporary visa. So if you manage to clear that first huge hurdle, the next thing you need to prove is that you've got a solid support system waiting for you. And this isn't just about emotional support. The government requires formal, documented sponsorship and some serious financial backing. So, how does that work? Well, it's a two-step process. First, you need an eligible relative, like a parent or a sibling, to formally sponsor you. Step 2, you need to get something called an assurance of support. Now, this one is a really big deal, so let's take a closer look at what it actually is. Essentially, an assurance of support is a legally binding financial promise. Someone, your assurer, is basically telling the Australian government, hey, don't worry, I will take full financial responsibility for this person when they arrive, so they won't need to ask for Social Security. It's a safety net, making sure new arrivals are supported from day one. Okay, so you've got the family connection and the financial backing sorted. Now, every single applicant has to go through a standard personal vetting process. This is all about making sure that anyone becoming a permanent resident meets Australia's health, character, and financial standards. It's a pretty thorough checkup on you as a person. The first part of that vetting is a mandatory health check. This applies to you and anyone else on your application. It's to make sure that public health is protected and that you won't put a major strain on Australia's healthcare system. And right alongside that, you'll also have to pass a pretty comprehensive character check. This is a standard part of the process for all potential permanent residents. They'll look at your background to make sure you're of good character as Australian law defines it. The vetting also has a financial angle, but it's a bit different. If you happen to owe any money to the Australian government, you've got to pay it back completely or have a formal repayment plan in place before they'll grant the visa. Basically, they want to see a clean slate. And it is absolutely crucial to understand that your past immigration history really matters here. If you've ever had a visa canceled or an application refused, that could seriously affect your chances. Your entire history with Australian immigration will be looked at as part of this review. We are almost at the finish line here. The last stage of this whole process kind of moves away from the practical stuff and more into the personal, a formal commitment to the values and responsibilities that come with living in Australia. So if you're 18 or older, you will be asked to sign the Australian Values Statement. And this is more than just putting your name on a piece of paper. It's a formal declaration that you've read, understood, and are committed to respecting the Australian way of life and obeying its laws. Now, for any applicants who are under 18, there's a special protection in place. A visa will only be granted if the department is absolutely certain that it's in the best interest of that child. It's a critical legal safeguard that's built right into the system. So let's just do a quick recap of this whole journey. It starts with that super strict family test, then it moves to proving you've got strong support waiting for you in Australia, and it all finishes with those standard checks on your health, your character, and your commitment to Australian values. Every single one of these boxes has to be ticked. They are all non-negotiable.
So there you have it. That's the complete rundown of what it takes to qualify for the remaining relative visa. It's a path to a new life, but one that's built on a very precise and narrow definition of family. So the final question really is for you. Does your family's unique situation fit this very specific pathway to a future in Australia?